After arriving in Australia on their tourist visa, Bobo and Charlie set out looking for opportunities in a country that welcomes hard workers. For the very first time, they looked at a new world, much bigger than they had ever imagined. And within the first month of Bobo and Charlie arriving, love came calling at the door, just by chance. It happened as a result of Bobo's intervention one night when he saw a young lady being harassed by two men who attempted to put her into the back of their car. Bobo saw what was going on and stepped in to rescue the poor girl, who was screaming out for help. The two young men were no match for Bobo, who was trained as a boxing champion. So after he knocked both of them out, the police were called and a report was made, and the two men were arrested for their attempted abduction. As it turned out, the young lady was the daughter of a very wealthy man who had no idea of the sinister plan these two gangsters had started. After an investigation, the police uncovered a ransom letter in the home where they lived. There were also some weapons and surveillance equipment in the home that would have become a prison for the young lady. The wealthy man was very grateful that his daughter had been saved and rewarded Bobo very wealthy with a cash payment for preventing the extortion plan. The thing was, Bobo never expected the young lady to reach out personally and thank Bobo. She sent a chauffeur-driven car to the caravan park where Bobo and Charlie were staying. Sitting in the back seat of the limo was Maria, the lady Bobo had rescued. She got out and she gave Bobo a kiss on the cheek and said, "My father would like you to come over to our estate for dinner." It was the very first time that Bobo had been kissed by a girl, and he was finding it difficult to speak. In fact, the kiss went right to his heart and almost knocked him off his feet. After a moment's hesitation, Bobo replied, "Okay, when's the dinner?" "Right away. Let's go. Everything's ready," Maria said. Bobo told Charlie that he was going out for dinner and he'd be back later on that evening. And Charlie looked out the window of the caravan and watched both of them get into a big fancy limo and drive off. On the evening, Bobo had been graciously received at the estate and treated like a king. Love had found Bobo, and also at the same time, Love had also found Maria. Later in the evening, Maria mentioned that she had a girlfriend called Lisa, and then she proposed that they would go out for a double date with Charlie, with a cruise around Sydney Harbour on board her father's yacht. At the end of the evening, Bobo was returned back to the caravan park by the chauffeur in the limo, and he could hardly wait to tell Charlie all about the double date. Charlie was sitting down watching something on TV, and Bobo went over, switched off the TV and said, "Charlie, I need your full attention to what I'm about to tell you." Charlie replied, "I'm all ears, Bobo." "Charlie, we are going on a double date, you and me, on Sydney Harbour, on a yacht, with two beautiful Aussie girls." Charlie coughed, but he noticed a sparkle in Bobo's eyes, and there was a far-away expression on his face. "Bobo, you seem a lot different than normal. Did you have a drink or something at dinner?" Bobo replied, "Charlie, this is the first time for you and I to start out on a road to romance." Charlie replied nervously, "Bobo, we know nothing about that kind of thing." Bobo replied, "Yes, and that's exactly why we need to try, Charlie, to give romance a run." Charlie sat there looking into Bobo's face, and he said, "But why, Bobo? Why now? We just landed and are trying to start our own business." Bobo replied, Charlie, why is a word we don't use? It doesn't exist. We just gotta do it because we have to. Okay, like, you're saying that we have a date with two girls on a yacht? Yes, Maria and I and you and Lisa on a yacht. That's right, Charlie, over Sydney Harbour. They both sat there in silence for a while, like they had drifted off the sea on a boat that sank out there, and they were left as two castaways on some desert island for the very first time in their life. Bobo was considering a bright future with Maria, and Charlie was considering taking a sickness to get out of the date. Not sure, Bobo, if this is like the right time to be on the road, like to romance, you know? And Bobo just sat and he looked at Charlie and he replied, Charlie, look, when do you think would be the right time then? I don't know, Bobo, said Charlie. Bobo looked at Charlie with a deep sigh and said, Oh, Charlie, it's time we thought about the future and finding someone out there who we can share that with. Charlie said, Bobo, like, I hear you what you're saying, but I can't stop thinking about taking that big step out there to the road to romance, you know? Bobo smiled and nodded his head in silent agreement. Charlie, we have to give it a go. Life is all about adapting and making changes. That's how we grow. And we need to be strong, for if we don't try, we'll miss the boat. And we'll end up like castaways, deserted in life, like on some bachelor's desert island for the rest of our life, with no way to get back to the shore. Charlie fidgeted and fumbled a little with his fingers, and he took a deep breath and he said, Oh, well, okay, Bobo, a double date it is, maybe, huh? May as well give it a try. Better we try than say no, nay, never, no more. I guess, Bobo, huh? So now we've learned to read and write and multiply, divide, add and subtract. Now we're going to have to learn how to find romance. Aye, that's the kind of answer I'd expect from you, Charlie. Let's give it a try. On the double date, Lisa and Charlie got on like a house on fire, as if they knew we had all their lives together. And Bobo and Lisa and Charlie and Maria were all happy together. 4 people in the arms of love. On the double date, Charlie spoke about their plans, starting out in business, and Bobo was talking about outsourcing and advertising their company to secure clients and prospective home buyers. And there was some hint about marriage plans and her being married in Australia. Bobo and Charlie could become Australian citizens. Maria's father put some money up for Bobo and Charlie to build their very first project, show home, on an exclusive piece of land that he owned near Sydney Harbour. Bobo and Charlie were enthused and they began to work eagerly to the commencement of the project. They began building with other tradesmen, using quality, honesty, integrity and pride, and it certainly showed quickly day by day in the work they were doing and in the way they spoke and worked with those around them on the building site. There wasn't a moment in the day when Bobo and Charlie couldn't stop thinking about Maria and Lisa. They were both terribly in love for the very first time in their lives, and they began to understand more about where they had to go to with their lives in life. Bobo and Charlie decided to do a double proposal of marriage to Maria and Lisa, and this was the reason that prompted a date with Destiny for the marriage proposals. Although this was difficult for them because they never had done that kind of thing before, and they weren't exactly sure on how to arrange the setting, they both started to write down a few lines for rehearsing what they would say to the girls. They said the words over and over before plucking up the courage to organize the double proposal day. Now that things were serious and real, Bobo and Charlie saw that marrying Lisa and Maria would be an asset because they would immediately be Australian citizens with a future to live out their lives in Australia, conducting both romance, family, and their business. The script was perfectly written for a fairy tale wedding. The proposal day came with the words to be spoken that had been rehearsed time and time again over and over. Charlie and Bobo looked around at many of the jewelers in town for the engagement and wedding rings, and although it took a while, they found the ones that they thought were perfect. And they were assured by the jeweler that the rings could easily be resized if necessary. Then on the double date night, a dinner in a quiet restaurant overlooking Sydney Harbour, Charlie and Bobo were all set to ask Lisa and Maria for their hands in marriage. And at dinner that night in the restaurant, they both looked at the future and their wives with love in their hearts and faith in their belief, with smiles as big and wide as an ocean. And in that moment, Charlie and Bobo produced the rings, and with the pearl there shining brightly in a cluster of diamonds, they both said in union together, beginning with Bobo. Dearest Maria, I remember the first time I saw you. Oh, I would have laid down my life for you that evening. So now I'm asking, would you do the same for me and give me the rest of your life in marriage? Charlie was also making his proposal at the same time, like a melody and a song of love. Charlie said to Maria, as you know, Lisa, I've never been the same since I first saw you, and to be honest, I don't ever want that to change, because the way that I feel for you will never change, no matter how long that will be. I'm wondering if you would like to spend that time as my wife. The two girls immediately responded with a yes. From that day, after the rings were placed on their finger, they started to make plans for a double wedding at an exclusive private estate in Sydney. Maria and Lisa were so happy to have found the special someone to share their lives with, and were busy looking at jewellery, flowers, gowns and shoes, while Bobo and Charlie were busy looking for boots and suits and rings and cars. And on the wedding day, as it was getting closer and closer, Bobo and Charlie started to become jittery and jumpy, tingly and frumpy, and butterflies in their stomach, but love in their hearts. And on the big day, Bobo and Charlie presented like two statesmen, side by side, waiting for their brides to come in to the church and join them in making the vows of marriage for the very first time, in the company of others who were there to witness the event. They came, making an appearance, and they saw love at first sight with Charlie and Bobo and Lisa and Maria. 4 relationships cemented for the rest of their lives with 2 couples. And in that miraculous moment of time, love was the message that was there for everyone to see and to savor. With the double wedding and process, it was more than special. And the joining together in marriage of them summed up how love should be found. And from that day on, how love would continue to grow and become more trusting and understanding, with hope and with expectations for a future filled with happiness for both couples. The end.